The pregnant bride said goodbye to her dying millionaire husband. With discreet steps, she left the room filled with luxury and farewells. But upon hearing his ex-wife reveal something shocking, she froze in place. Was her life a lie? The secret would change everything forever. If this story interests you, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and tell us which city you're watching from. We'll continue. The cold, antiseptic hospital corridor echoed with Emily's hurried footsteps as she moved away from room 307. The sound of the machines keeping Andrew alive still resonated in her ears. The constant beeping, the hum of the ventilator, a mechanical symphony fighting to maintain her husband's life. Her hands trembled as she held her purse. She had just given Andrew a goodbye kiss, whispering words of love and promises to take care of Natalie. Her husband's once vibrant face was now pale and lifeless, connected to tubes and monitors. On the corridor bench, Natalie slept curled up, her dark hair falling over her angelic face. At 6 years old, she was the spitting image of her father, the same curious eyes, the same mischievous smile. Emily adjusted the coat over her daughter, feeling her heart tighten. How would she explain to a child that her father might not come home? That's when she heard it. The low, tense voice came from the end of the corridor. Sophia, Andrew's ex-wife, was speaking with Dr. Mitchell in urgent tones. Something about her posture, the way she gesticulated, made Emily stop. Years of living with Andrew had taught her to recognize when something important was happening. "Those documents cannot come to light," Sophia whispered, her voice trembling. "Do you understand what would happen? Everything he built." Emily approached silently, hiding behind a column. Her heart was beating so loudly she feared being discovered. "Mrs. Sophia," the doctor replied, "I understand your concern, but at this moment our priority is—" "No," Sophia interrupted him. "You don't understand. If this comes to light, it's not just his reputation at stake. The girl, she would lose everything." Emily felt the blood freeze in her veins. Girl? Were they talking about Natalie? The memories of the last 5 years with Andrew passed like a film in her mind. The elegant dinners, the yacht trips, the luxurious parties where he proudly introduced her as his wife. The day she met Natalie, then just a year old, and how the girl immediately won her heart. Andrew had always been generous, extravagant even. His gifts were grandiose, his surprises elaborate. The mansion where they lived was a testament to his success. Italian marble, artwork, antique furniture. But there were moments, brief instants, when Emily caught something in his eyes. A shadow, perhaps, a weight he carried in silence. "Are the papers safe?" Sophia's voice brought her back to the present. "In the office safe, as always," the doctor replied. "But ma'am, with his condition worsening." Emily backed away, her legs suddenly weak. She needed to lean against the wall to avoid falling. What papers were these? What secrets was her husband keeping that could affect Natalie? The sound of approaching footsteps made her quickly return to her daughter. Sophia passed by without noticing her presence, her high heels echoing on the granite floor. Emily observed the elegant silhouette of Andrew's ex-wife disappear into the elevator. Natalie stirred on the bench, mumbling something in her sleep. Emily caressed her hair, feeling hot tears run down her face. What should she do? Return to Andrew's room and spend his last moments together, or investigate what Sophia and the doctor were hiding? A nurse rushed past, pushing a medication cart. The smell of antiseptic seemed stronger now, almost suffocating. On the impersonal white walls, posters about health and hygiene seemed to observe her, silent witnesses to her dilemma. Emily looked at the clock on the wall. 11:45 p.m. The night dragged on like an eternity. The doctors had been clear. Andrew would probably not see the next dawn. The cancer consuming him had spread too quickly, transforming the strong, vibrant man into a shadow of his former self. The beep of a message on her phone startled her. It was Margaret, her best friend, asking if she needed anything. Emily stared at the screen without responding. How could she explain the turmoil consuming her? How could she put into words the fear now dominating her? Her eyes returned to the corridor where Sophia had disappeared. The mentioned office could only be Andrew's, on the 20th floor of the commercial building downtown. She knew that place well. How many times had she taken Natalie to visit her father at work? The child loved sitting in the big leather chair, pretending to be important like him. A sob escaped her throat. Sophia's last words echoed in her mind. The girl would lose everything. What exactly could her daughter lose? What had? Andrew done that needed to be kept secret. The monitor at the nurse's station showed Andrew's vital signs, increasingly weak. Time was running out, and with it, perhaps the only chance to discover the truth. The hiss of the automatic coffee maker in the corner of the reception area snapped Emily out of her thoughts. She had spent the last 20 minutes paralyzed, torn between her duty to be by her husband's side in his final moments and the desperate need to protect her daughter. "Mom," a soft voice called her. It was Clara, the night shift nurse, offering a cup of coffee. "You need to eat something." Emily accepted the drink with trembling hands, watching the dark liquid reflect the hospital's fluorescent lights. Clara was the nurse who had accompanied Andrew the most in recent months. She had seen the whole process, from the devastating diagnosis to the present moment. "Clara," Emily began hesitantly, "you know Dr. Sophia well, don't you?" "His ex-wife." The nurse adjusted her uniform, seeming uncomfortable. "Yes, ma'am, she's always been present during the treatment." "Have you noticed anything strange? Something she and Dr. Mitchell discussed in private?" Clara looked away, her fingers nervously playing with her badge. "Mrs. Emily, I shouldn't." "Please," Emily held the nurse's hand. "It's about my daughter. I need to know if she's in danger." A sigh escaped Clara's lips. There were some conversations about important documents, about decisions made in the past." She paused, looking around to make sure they were alone. "But what intrigued me most were the visits." Visits? Yes. In the last few months before his condition drastically worsened, Sophia would bring a lawyer. They would meet in the room when Mr. Andrew was more lucid. They always requested complete privacy. Emily felt a chill down her spine. A lawyer? What needed to be discussed with such urgency and secrecy? "The last visit," Clara continued, lowering her voice even more, "was 2 weeks ago. I was changing the sheets in the next room and, well, I heard shouting. Mr. Andrew was agitated, saying he wouldn't sign anything, that he wouldn't allow them to do this to the girl." The coffee in Emily's hand had gone cold, forgotten. Her mind was working frantically, trying to connect the pieces of this dark puzzle that was revealing itself. "Clara, do you know where Sophia keeps her purse when she's here?" The nurse hesitated again. "In the doctor's lounge closet. She has special authorization because she's also a doctor, even though she doesn't work at this hospital." Emily looked at Natalie, still sleeping peacefully. The girl stirred, clutching to her chest the small teddy bear Andrew had given her on her last birthday. An idea began to form in her mind. It was risky, it was wrong, but if there was something in Sophia's belongings that could clarify what danger threatened her daughter. "Mrs. Emily," Clara gently touched her arm. "I know what you're thinking, but please, be careful. Dr. Sophia, she has powerful connections in this hospital." The corridor was quieter now. The early morning hours were advancing, bringing with them that artificial calm typical of hospitals. Only the distant sound of monitors and the occasional passing of stretchers broke the silence. Emily stood up, adjusting Natalie's coat once more. "Clara, could you stay with her for a few minutes? I need to go to the bathroom." The nurse nodded, understanding in her eyes. "Of course, ma'am, take all the time you need." With hesitant steps, Emily moved away toward the side corridor. Her heart was beating so hard it seemed about to leap from her chest. The doctor's lounge was at the end of that corridor. She knew this from having seen Sophia enter and exit several times in the last few days. Reaching the door, she hesitated. What she was about to do was an invasion of privacy. It could have serious consequences. But the image of Natalie, innocent and vulnerable, made her continue. The door was ajar. Inside the room, only the emergency light was on, creating unsettling shadows. The lockers lined the wall, small metal cubicles where doctors kept their belongings. Emily entered, silently closing the door behind her. Sophia's name was on a small label on the third locker in the second row. It was locked, of course, but the locker wasn't completely closed. In her rush to speak with the doctor, Sophia must have left the door slightly ajar. With trembling fingers, Emily pulled the small metal door. Inside the locker was an Italian leather bag. She recognized the expensive brand. She had an identical one that Andrew had given her as a gift. Next to it, a white lab coat hung, and some papers were stacked. Sweat trickled down her forehead as she searched through the purse. Wallet, cell phone, keys. Her fingers touched something different, a thin, transparent plastic folder. Inside the folder were receipts. Many receipts, dates from 5-6 years ago, substantial payments to a law firm. The lawyer's name, Mr. Mark Alvarez, appeared repeatedly. One paper in particular caught her attention. It was a handwritten note, Sophia's elegant handwriting. Filling the page, meeting with M.A. Discuss alteration to the will. A.W. resistant. Mention clause about N. N. Natalie. The sound of footsteps in the corridor made her freeze. Quickly, she took out her cell phone and photographed the documents, her hands shaking so much that some photos came out blurry. She put everything back exactly as she had found it and closed the locker. The footsteps were approaching. Emily barely had time to hide behind a screen when the door opened. It was a doctor she didn't know, probably from the night shift. The woman got something from her locker and left, without noticing her presence. She waited a few more seconds before leaving the room, her heart still racing. In the corridor, everything remained the same cold lights, the same heavy silence. Clara was still beside Natalie, who had now changed position on the bench, but remained asleep. The nurse gave Emily a questioning look, to which she merely nodded slightly. Back in her place beside her daughter, Emily took out her phone to examine the photos she had taken. There was something about a will, about a clause that mentioned Natalie. Why was Sophia so interested in this? A sudden memory hit her. 3 months ago, when Andrew's diagnosis had drastically worsened, he had called her to his office. He was restless, anxious. "Emily," he had said, his voice already weakened by the disease, "I need you to promise me something. If anything happens, to me, don't let them take Natalie from you." At the time, she hadn't understood. Why would anyone try to separate them? She was legally Natalie's stepmother, had built a solid relationship with the girl over the years. "Mom?" Clara's voice brought her back to the present. "Dr. Mitchell is calling. Mr. Andrews' vital signs." Emily jumped up. The monitor at the nurse's station showed concerning changes. The pressure was dropping. "My little one," she whispered to Natalie, adjusting her coat once more. "Stay here with Clara. Mommy will be right back." On the way to room 307, her legs seemed to weigh tons. What would she find in there? Was her husband already? But before she could reach the door, a familiar figure blocked her path. Sophia was standing in the corridor, her eyes fixed on Emily with a disturbing intensity. "We need to talk," said Andrew's ex-wife, her voice as cold as the hospital's air conditioning. "About Natalie's future." Emily felt the blood freeze in her veins. How dare she? Right now, when Andrew was, a sharp sound cut through the air, the alarm of the heart monitor. Doctors and nurses rushed to the room, pushing both women aside. "Later," Emily said firmly, trying to get past Sophia. She needed to be by his side. But Sophia's hand held her with surprising strength. "There is no later," she whispered. "Time is running out, Emily, and you won't like what you're about to discover." The alarm continued to sound, relentless. Inside the room, urgent voices gave orders, machines hummed, and Emily was there, caught between the desperate desire to be with her husband and the growing fear of what Sophia might reveal. On the corridor bench, Natalie stirred in her sleep, oblivious to the drama unfolding. The teddy bear fell from her arms, landing silently on the cold hospital floor. The office was exactly as Andrew had left it. The solid mahogany desk still maintained the meticulous organization that was his trademark. A half-full coffee cup, now cold, remained next to the photo frame of Natalie. Emily took a deep breath, trying to focus. After the scare at the hospital, which fortunately turned out to be just a sharp drop in blood pressure, quickly stabilized, she had managed to convince Sophia to continue their conversation in a more appropriate location. "So?" she asked, watching Andrew's ex-wife walk around the office as if it was still her home. "What's so urgent that it can't wait until he dies?" Sophia completed, a bitter smile on her lips. "Don't be a hypocrite, Emily. We both know it's a matter of hours." The comment hit Emily like a slap. How could this woman be so cold? "You want to know why I'm here?" Sophia continued, stopping in front of the window overlooking the city. "Because unlike you, I really knew Andrew. I knew his secrets, his choices, his mistakes." Emily remained silent, observing. The early morning light was beginning to tinge the sky with a deep blue. 6 years ago, Sophia went on, Andrew did something that would forever change Natalie's destiny. "What are you talking about?" Sophia turned, her eyes shining in an almost feverish way. "You never wondered why he married you so quickly after our divorce? Why he insisted so, much that you legally adopt Natalie?" A chill ran down Emily's spine. He loved me. Loved how I took care of Natalie." A humorless laugh escaped Sophia's lips. "Oh dear. So naive." She walked to the desk, her fingers sliding over the polished surface. "Andrew needed you, needed someone who could assume guardianship of Natalie when the truth came to light." "What truth?" Emily asked, her voice trembling. "The truth about who Natalie really is." The silence that followed was deafening. Outside, the first birds began their morning song. "I don't understand," Emily finally said. "Natalie is your daughter. You're her mother." Sophia laughed again, but this time there was something different in her voice. Pain. "No, Emily, I'm not." The world seemed to spin for a moment. Emily needed to lean on the desk to avoid falling. But how? All the documents—" "Falsified," Sophia cut in. "All of them. The birth certificate, the medical records, everything. Andrew used his money and influence to create a perfect story." Emily sat heavily in one of the chairs. Her mind tried to process what she was hearing. "Why?" she managed to ask. "Because Natalie's real mother was dead," Sophia answered, her voice now softer. "And Andrew couldn't allow his daughter to end up in the system." The pieces were starting to fit together. Andrew's obsessive interest in ensuring Emily had legal rights over Natalie, the insistence on keeping certain matters secret. "Who was she?" Emily asked. "The real mother?" Sophia took an envelope from her purse. "Hannah Martinez worked as a secretary at the company. Young, beautiful, dreamy." She paused. "Died in childbirth. No family. No one to claim the child." "And you," Emily began to understand, "you agreed to pretend to be the mother." "I loved Andrew," Sophia said simply. "I would do anything for him, even knowing he never really loved me. But now, mates, why tell me this now?" The smile returned to Sophia's lips, but didn't reach her eyes. "Because, dear Emily, in a few hours, all the falsified documents will come to light. Part of the agreement I made with Andrew. If he died, the truth would be revealed." "No," Emily stood up. "You can't do that. It would destroy Natalie's life." "I can prevent it," Sophia said calmly. "I can keep the secret. But there's a price." Emily felt her heart tighten. "What price?" "Custody of Natalie. You renounce all your legal rights. The girl stays with me." The sun was beginning to rise on the horizon, its first rays crossing the office windows. In the hospital, Andrew fought for each breath. And there, in that office that held so many secrets, Emily faced the most difficult decision of her life. The morning sun lit up the hospital room when Emily returned. Natalie had awakened and was sitting in the armchair next to Andrew's bed, her small fingers intertwined with her father's. "Daddy is warmer today," she said innocently when she saw Emily enter. "I think he's getting better." Emily's heart broke a little more. How to explain to a 6-year-old that the warmth she felt was from the fever consuming her father? How to tell her that in a few hours she could lose not only her father, but all the history she knew about herself. "Honey," Emily knelt beside the armchair. "Can you go with Clara for breakfast? I need to talk with your father for a bit." Natalie hesitated, her eyes, so similar to Hannah's, Emily now realized, fixed on Andrew's pale face. "But what if he wakes up?" "I promise I'll call you right away," Emily forced a smile. "It will be quick." After Natalie left with Clara, Emily closed the door and approached the bed. Andrew's face was more gaunt than ever, deep marks under his closed eyes. "Why?" she whispered, holding his hand. "Why didn't you trust me enough to tell me the truth?" Sophia's words still echoed in her mind. The ultimatum was clear: either give up custody of Natalie, or the entire scheme of fake documents would come to light, potentially separating the girl from both of them. "You should have told me about Hannah," she continued, tears streaming down her face. "About how you fell in love with her, about how you tried to protect your daughter." A sudden movement startled her. Andrew's fingers had moved slightly in her hand. "Love?" She leaned in, barely daring to breathe. "Can you hear me?" His eyes opened slowly, unfocused at first. His lips moved, trying to form words. "Don't strain yourself," Emily said quickly, reaching for the water cup with the straw. "Here, drink a little." After a few weak sips, Andrew managed to focus his gaze on her. How much do you know?" "Enough," she answered softly. "Sophia told me about Hannah, about the documents." A shadow of pain crossed his face, and it wasn't just physical. "Forgive me," he whispered. "I should have told you before." "Why didn't you tell me?" Andrew closed his eyes for a moment, gathering strength. "I was afraid of losing you, of losing Natalie. Hannah was special, different from anyone I'd ever met." "You loved her. It wasn't a question." "Yes," he admitted, his voice almost inaudible. "But she knew I couldn't leave Sophia. Not at that time, with all the family connections, the business. And when she got pregnant," a tear escaped from the corner of Andrew's eye. "She was so happy, said she didn't need anything from me, that she would raise the baby alone. But then, she died in childbirth," Emily completed softly. "I couldn't let our daughter go to an orphanage," he continued, each word seeming to cost him precious energy. "Sophia, she agreed to help. For a price." "What price?" "My freedom." He tried to smile, but it seemed more like a grimace of pain. She would keep the secret, pretend to be Natalie's mother, but I could never divorce her. Never tell the truth. "But you did divorce," Emily frowned, "and you married me." "Because I found a loophole," Andrew coughed lightly. "I discovered something about her past, something that would make her lose everything if it came to light. A mutual agreement of silence." Emily processed each new piece of information, trying to understand the complex puzzle that was her husband's life. "And now she wants Natalie," she finally said. "She threatened to reveal everything if I don't give up custody." Andrew's eyes widened in panic. "No, you can't let..." "Shh," she squeezed his hand. "Stay calm, I won't do anything hasty." But Andrew was too agitated. The monitors began to beep more rapidly. "Drawer," he managed to say between gasps. "Office, right drawer." "What are you talking about?" "The case under the photo frame," his voice was getting weaker. "Letter for you." The alarms began to sound louder. Nurses rushed into the room. "Ma'am, you need to leave," one of them said gently but firmly. "No, wait," Emily tried to resist. "Love, what letter? What's in the drawer?" But Andrew had lost consciousness again, his body convulsing slightly, as the medical team worked around him. In the corridor, Emily could hear Natalie asking Clara what was happening. Her heart was torn between staying there, waiting for news, or rushing to the office to discover what secret that drawer held. The sound of the medical equipment became increasingly urgent inside the room. Time was running out. The morning traffic was chaotic, but the taxi driver managed to make the journey to the office in record time. Emily ran through the corridors of the commercial building, her heart beating in the same frantic rhythm as her heels against the marble floor. She opened the office door with trembling hands. The photo frame Andrew had mentioned was there, a picture of Natalie at her last birthday, blowing out the candles with a radiant smile. When she lifted the object, a small golden key fell onto the desk. It looked antique, different from the modern keys that Andrew normally used. The right drawer was locked, as he had said. The key fit perfectly in the lock. Inside was a worn brown leather folder. Emily's heart almost stopped when she saw the name written on the label, Hannah Martinez. With trembling fingers, she opened the folder. The first thing she saw was a photograph. A young woman, no more than 25 years old, smiled at the camera. Her eyes, the same as Natalie's, shone with a contagious joy. There were letters, many letters, all handwritten in a delicate calligraphy. Emily picked up the first one. My love, I know we can't be together. I know your life is too complicated to include someone like me, but I want you to know that I don't regret anything. Every moment we spent together is kept in my heart. Tears blurred her vision as she read. Hannah wrote with such passion, such sincerity that it was impossible not to be moved. At the bottom of the folder, she found an envelope addressed to her. For Emily, open only after my death. Her hands were shaking so much that she could barely open the envelope. The letter inside was dated just 3 months ago. Dear Emily, if you're reading this, it means I couldn't win my battle against cancer. It also means I finally have the courage to tell you the whole truth. Hannah was more than an extramarital affair. She was the only person who made me feel truly alive. When I discovered she was pregnant, I promised myself I would do everything to protect our daughter. Sophia agreed to participate in the plan for money, a lot of money, but also for revenge. She knew that keeping me tied to her, dependent on her silence, was the greatest punishment she could give me. When you entered our lives, something changed. For the first time, I saw Natalie truly happy. You brought light where there were only shadows, love where there was only obligation. What Sophia doesn't know is that in recent months, I've been preparing everything. The documents she has are copies. The originals, including proof of her blackmail and the money she received, are with my trusted lawyer, not Mark Alvarez, who works for her, but Samuel Torres. Along with this letter, you'll find a USB drive. In it is everything: bank records, emails, recordings, enough to keep Sophia away from you both forever. But the most important thing is at the bottom of this folder, Hannah's true will, found among her belongings after her death. In it, she names you, yes, you specifically, as guardian of her daughter. If anything happened to me, how could she know about you if she died years before we met? That is the greatest mystery of all. In the last month of her pregnancy, Hannah began having dreams. Dreams about a woman who would take care of her daughter with all the love in the world. She described you in detail in the will, even the small scar you have on your left wrist. I know it's a lot to process. I know you may never forgive me for hiding all this. But I ask only one thing. Continue being the wonderful mother that you are to our Natalie with eternal love, Andrew. Emily's cell phone began to ring, startling her. It was Clara. Ma'am, the nurse's voice was choked. You need to come back to the hospital now. At the bottom of the folder, as Andrew had said, was a silver USB drive and a sealed envelope with Hannah's name, her will. As she hurriedly put everything in her purse with trembling hands, one last paper caught her attention. It was a drawing made by Hannah, dated 1 week before giving birth. It showed a dark-haired woman, impossibly similar to Emily, holding a small girl. Underneath, written in the same delicate handwriting as the letters, was a single phrase. To the guardian of my daughter's dreams, will we meet someday? The taxi was already waiting at the entrance of the building. At the hospital, Andrew was fighting for his last moments of life, and somewhere Sophia waited, not knowing that her revenge plan was about to crumble. The hospital seemed different now. The same corridors that before had suffocated her with their weight of secrets and lies now seemed lighter, as if the newly discovered truth had purified the air. Emily found Sophia in the waiting room, an untouched cup of coffee in her perfectly manicured hands. Their eyes met, and for a moment neither spoke. "So?" Sophia broke the silence. "Have you decided?" "Yes," Emily replied, her voice calm. "I decided that you will never threaten my family again." Something in the firmness of her tone made Sophia straighten in her chair. "Don't be foolish. You have no choice. One word from me and—" "And what?" Emily interrupted her, sitting down, across from her. "You'll reveal how you received millions to pretend to be Natalie's mother? How you blackmailed Andrew all these years?" Sophia's face paled slightly. "What are you talking about?" "Hannah Martinez," Emily said simply, observing how the name made Sophia shrink. "She left more than a daughter, you know. She left evidence that Andrew kept all these years, waiting for the right moment. You're bluffing," but her voice betrayed her insecurity. "Her will is with me, along with all the bank transfers you received, the emails, the recordings." Sophia stood up abruptly, knocking over the coffee cup. The dark liquid spread across the white hospital floor like a stain of exposed guilt. "You don't understand," she hissed. "Everything I did was to protect Natalie. Andrew wasn't in a condition to raise a daughter alone. He needed me." "No," Emily shook her head. "You didn't do this for Natalie. You did it for revenge. For money. And now it's over." A group of doctors rushed past toward Andrew's room. Time was running out. "What do you want?" Sophia asked, her pose of superiority completely undone. "I want you to disappear," Emily replied, standing up. "Go, back to Paris to your luxurious clinic. Pretend Natalie never existed, because if you try anything at all this evidence will end up in the hands of the authorities." "You wouldn't do that," Sophia took a step toward her. "It would destroy Andrew's reputation too." "He's dying." Emily felt tears burn her eyes. "The only thing that matters now is protecting our daughter. The daughter that Hannah entrusted to me years before we met." The sound of more people running down the corridor caught her attention. Clara appeared in the waiting room doorway, her face marked by tears. "Mrs. Emily, it's Mr. Andrew." Sophia made a move to follow her, but Emily stopped her with a firm gesture. "No, you lost that right a long time ago." Room 307 was full of doctors and nurses. The monitors emitted alarming sounds. In the midst of all the chaos, Emily saw Natalie standing in a corner, hugging her teddy bear, silent tears running down her face. "Come here, my love." Emily picked her up, feeling the small body tremble. "Let's say goodbye to Daddy." The medical team made space for them. Andrew was conscious, his eyes frantically searching for something or someone. "Here," Emily held his hand. "We're here." "Emily?" His voice was just a whisper. "Did you find it?" "Yes, love. I found everything. And I promise I'll take care of her exactly as Hannah dreamed." A weak smile illuminated Andrew's pale face, his eyes fixed on Natalie. "My princess," he managed to say. You are so much like your mother." Natalie looked confused at Emily, but before any question could be asked, Andrew squeezed both their hands. "Thank you," he whispered, "for giving me the family that I always—" The rest of the sentence was lost in a deep sigh. The monitors began to emit a continuous, sharp sound. "Daddy?" Natalie called, her small voice. "Daddy, wake up!" Emily hugged her daughter tightly, their tears mixing. Outside, the morning sun shone brightly, indifferent to the pain unfolding inside that room. In the corridor, Sophia observed the scene through the half-open door. Without saying a word, she turned her back and walked toward the elevator, her heels echoing increasingly distant until they completely disappeared. It was the end of an era, the end of a lie that had lasted for years, but it was also the beginning of something new, a truth that, although painful, would finally bring the peace that both Andrew and Hannah had desired for their daughter. The weeks following Andrew's death were a fog of documents, lawyers, and endless questions. Natalie, still trying to process the loss of her father, clung to Emily like a small anchor amid the storm. The law firm indicated in Andrew's letter was a discreet building downtown. Samuel Torres, a middle-aged man with kind eyes, received Emily in his office on a rainy afternoon. Andrew came to me 3 months ago, he explained, organizing a stack of documents on his desk. He said he needed to ensure everything was in order for when the time came. Emily tightened the strap of her purse, where the USB drive and Hannah's will remained safely stored. Did he mention anything about original documents? Yes. Samuel opened a drawer and removed a thick folder. It's all here, including something he added the last time we met. The lawyer slid an envelope across the desk. Inside were photos, dozens of them. They were of Hannah, all taken without her noticing. Hannah smiling while organizing papers at her desk. Hannah reading a book during lunch. Hannah caressing her already visible belly. He kept them in a special safe, Samuel explained. He said that one day Natalie would want to know her mother, if only through these images. Emily felt tears burn her eyes. In each photo she could see traces of her daughter, the same smile, the same way of tilting her head when concentrating. There's one more thing, Samuel continued, his voice soft. Something that not even Sophia knows. When Hannah died, she left a diary. Andrew kept it hidden all these years. The lawyer opened another drawer and removed a notebook with a faded blue cover. The pages were yellowed by time, but Hannah's delicate handwriting remained clear. The last entries, Samuel flipped almost to the end of the notebook, are about the dreams she had. Dreams about you. Emily took the diary with trembling hands. The date of the entry was 1 week before Natalie's birth. I dreamed of her again, the dark-haired woman who will raise my daughter. Her eyes are so gentle, so full of love. She calls her my love, exactly as I would. I don't know her name, but I know that one day she will find my little one and give her all the love that I won't be able to give. Andrew doesn't understand when I try to explain. He says they're just dreams, delusions caused by pregnancy. But I know deep in my heart that they're more than that. They are promises of the future. Today the dream was different. I saw the woman sitting in a garden teaching my daughter to make flower crowns. My little one must be about 6 years old and she's so beautiful. Her smile is like mine, but her eyes have her father's intensity. If you're reading this, woman of my dreams, I want you to know. I chose you. Even before you existed in my daughter's life, I already knew it would be you. Take care of her. Love her. And when she asks about me, tell her that Mommy loved her from the first instant, so much that she dreamed of the perfect person to raise her. Tears now flowed freely down Emily's face. How was it possible? How could Hannah have dreamed of her with such precision? There's one more thing, Samuel said softly. On the last page. Emily turned the diary. Glued to the back cover was a small envelope, and inside it a single photo. Hannah on her last day of life, lying in the hospital bed holding a newborn baby. Her eyes shone with love as she looked at little Natalie. On the back of the photo, in a shaky handwriting, was written, "For Emily, I know that one. Day you will find this photo. When that happens, look deep into our daughter's eyes and tell her that Mommy always knew she would be loved." The sound of rain on the office window seemed to lull that surreal moment. Outside, the city continued, its frantic rhythm oblivious to the miracle being revealed in that room. "What happens now?" Emily asked, her voice hoarse with emotion. Samuel smiled gently. "Now you continue being the wonderful mother that Hannah saw in her dreams, and as for Sophia, she won't bother us anymore," Emily said firmly. "I'm sure of that." As she left the office, the rain had given a truce. A rainbow shone in the sky, as if the universe itself wanted to confirm that, even in the most unlikely stories, love always finds its way. Autumn arrived, painting the garden trees with golden and reddish tones. 3 months had passed since Andrew's death, and life was gradually finding a new rhythm. On that particular morning, Emily watched Natalie through the kitchen window. The girl was sitting under the large tree in the yard, leafing through a photo album they had put together, a carefully selected collection of images of Hannah. "She spends a lot of time looking at the photos," Clara commented, serving a cup of tea for Emily. The nurse had become a close friend after the events at the hospital, visiting them frequently. "It's the way she found to get to know her mother," Emily responded softly. "Sometimes I catch her talking to the photos, telling about her day." The sound of an approaching car caught both their attention. Through the window, they saw a taxi stop in front of the house. An elderly woman got out, carrying a small suitcase. "Who is it?" Clara asked, noticing how Emily had gone pale. "Audrey Martinez," Emily whispered. "Hannah's mother." The discovery of Audrey's existence had been a surprise. Among the documents kept by Andrew, there were old letters exchanged between mother and daughter. Audrey lived in a small town in the countryside and had had no contact with the family for years. Samuel Torres had managed to locate her, and after weeks of delicate conversations by phone, she had finally agreed to meet her granddaughter. "Natalie!" Emily called through the window. "Come here, my love. There's someone special who wants to meet you." The girl came running in, the photo album still in her hands. She stopped abruptly upon seeing the lady in the living room. Audrey let out a small sob. "The same eyes," she murmured, "exactly like Hannah's." For a moment, no one moved. Time seemed suspended in that first meeting between grandmother and granddaughter. It was Natalie who broke the silence. "Did you know my mother when she was little like me?" Audrey smiled through her tears. "Yes, my love, and I have many stories to tell you." The following hours were filled with memories. Audrey had brought an old box full of photos and mementos from Hannah's childhood. There were drawings, school reports, even a small baby shoe. "She was always special," Audrey was saying, showing a photo of Hannah at 6 years old, exactly Natalie's current age. She had a unique way of seeing the world. And those dreams. Emily, who was serving hot chocolate for everyone, stopped. "Dreams?" "Oh yes," Audrey smiled. From a young age, Hannah had dreams that came true. At first, they were simple things. She dreamed about the next day's weather, about who would come to visit us. But as she grew, the dreams became more specific, Emily completed, remembering the diary. "Exactly," Audrey gently took Natalie's hand. "Your mother had a special gift, dear. She could see pieces of the future in her dreams, and in the last months of her life, she dreamed a lot about you and about Emily." Natalie looked confused at her adoptive mother. "But how could she dream about you if she didn't even know you?" "Because," Audrey answered before Emily could speak, "some people are destined to meet, even if not in the way we expect. Your mother knew she couldn't be here to raise you, so she dreamed of someone who could give all the love that she would give." Clara, who was observing the scene in silence, discreetly wiped away a tear. "Are you going to leave again?" Natalie suddenly asked, a touch of fear in her voice. Audrey looked at Emily, who nodded slightly. "Actually, dear, I was thinking of moving closer. This old city has many memories of Hannah, and maybe it's time to create some new memories with you." The smile that illuminated Natalie's face was so similar to Hannah's in the photos that for a moment Audrey had to hold her breath. "Can we show Grandma the garden?" Natalie asked Emily. "I want to show her where we planted the flowers that Mommy liked the most." "Of course, my love," Emily smiled. "Go ahead with Clara. I just need to talk for a minute with your grandmother." After Natalie went skipping toward the garden, Audrey turned to Emily. "You know, the lady said softly, in the last days of her life, Hannah wrote something in her diary. Something I never showed to anyone, not even Andrew." "What?" Emily asked, her heart speeding up. Audrey took a folded paper from her purse. "A letter for you." Emily's hands trembled as she unfolded the time-yellowed paper. The handwriting was different from the other diary entries, more shaky, as if Hannah had used her last strength to write. "Dear Emily, I don't know your name yet, but I know your heart. In my dreams, I see how you will love my daughter, how you will protect her, how you will keep my memory alive. I want you to know that you are not a replacement. You are a choice, my choice, the person that destiny prepared to be the second. Mother of my little one, take care of her, love her. And when you look at the sky on starry nights, know that I am smiling at both of you." with eternal love. Hannah. The news arrived on a Thursday afternoon when the golden autumn leaves danced through the garden. Samuel Torres called, his voice carrying an unusual urgency. "Mrs. Emily," he said as soon as she answered, "I just received a call from the Paris law firm. It's about Sophia." Emily's heart skipped a beat. It had been months since she had heard that name, since the day at the hospital. What happened? She wants to make a confession, complete, about everything. Emily sat in the nearest armchair, her legs suddenly too weak to support her. Why? Why now? There was a pause on the other end of the line. She's sick, terminal. A matter of weeks, according to the doctors. The irony of fate didn't escape Emily. First Andrew, now Sophia. Death seemed determined to take everyone who knew Natalie's true story. "She wants to see you," Samuel continued. "Said she has something important to deliver, something that belonged to Hannah." The world seemed to spin for a moment. What else could there be? What other secrets were still buried in this story? "I can't go to Paris," Emily said firmly. "I won't leave Natalie." "It won't be necessary," Samuel replied. "Sophia is returning to the States. Her flight arrives tomorrow." That night, after Natalie fell asleep, Emily sat in the garden with Audrey. Hannah's mother had moved to a nearby house and was now an integral part of their lives. "What do you think?" Emily asked after telling about the phone call. Audrey was silent for a moment, her eyes fixed on the stars. "You know," she finally began, "Hannah always said there are no coincidences. If Sophia is coming back, if she wants to confess, there must be a greater reason." "I'm afraid," Emily admitted. "Afraid that she might try something, even now." "No," Audrey shook her head. "She's dying, dear. People face death in different ways. Some, like Andrew, try to fix their mistakes. Others try to clear their conscience," Emily completed. The hospital where Sophia was admitted was different from the one where Andrew had spent his last days. More luxurious, more exclusive, but the smell of antiseptic and the heavy atmosphere of death were the same. Sophia was unrecognizable. The elegant and haughty woman had given way to a fragile figure, consumed by illness. Her eyes, however, maintained that characteristic intensity. "You came," she said, when Emily entered the room. Her voice was hoarse, weak. "Yes," Emily replied, simply keeping her distance. Sophia gestured toward the table beside the bed. "There, the blue box." It was an old box, the kind that holds jewelry. Emily picked it up carefully. "Hannah left it with me," Sophia explained. "On the day she found out she was pregnant, said it was for her daughter when she grew up." With trembling hands, Emily opened the box. Inside was a delicate necklace with a star-shaped pendant. "She wore it every day," Sophia continued. "She said it was magical, that it helped her dream of the future." A violent cough interrupted her. When she recovered, her eyes were watery. "I should have given it earlier, but you preferred to use it as leverage," Emily completed. "Like everything else." "Yes," Sophia admitted. "I was so bitter, so consumed by jealousy, by anger. Hannah had something I never had, Andrew's true love." Emily held the necklace up to the light. The pendant sparkled, casting small reflections around the room. "There's one more thing," Sophia said, her voice increasingly weak. "At the bottom of the box, a letter." Emily found a small envelope hidden beneath the velvet lining. It was addressed to Natalie. "I won't read it," she said, putting the envelope in her purse. "It's for my daughter when she's older." Sophia smiled weakly. "Your daughter?" "Yes, she is your daughter now, as Hannah always knew she would be." A heavy silence fell over the room. Outside, the sun was beginning to set, painting the sky with shades of pink and gold. "I'm sorry," Sophia finally said. "For everything. Tell Natalie I'm sorry too." Emily nodded slightly. "I will." When she arrived home that night, she found Natalie and Audrey in the garden, making flower crowns, exactly as Hannah had dreamed years before. "Mommy!" Natalie ran to hug her. "Grandma!" is teaching me to make crowns the way Mommy Hannah did. Emily hugged her daughter tightly, feeling the weight of the blue box in her purse. Somewhere she was sure Hannah was smiling. "I have something for you," she said softly, taking the necklace from the box. Natalie's eyes, Hannah's eyes, widened at the sight of the star pendant. "It's beautiful. It was your mother's," Emily explained, placing the necklace around her daughter's neck. "She saved it especially for you." The pendant shone in the sunset light, as if it had finally found its place after so many years. "Now I have a star from Mommy Hannah and a Mommy Emily," Natalie smiled, touching the pendant with reverence. Audrey, who was observing the scene in silence, wiped away a tear. "Yes, my love, and they will always shine for you." News of Sophia's death came a week later, through a discreet phone call from Samuel Torres. She had passed during the night, silently, taking with her the last vestiges of an era of secrets and lies. That same afternoon, a messenger delivered a package to Emily's house. It was a final correspondence from Sophia, sent shortly before her death. With trembling hands, Emily opened the manila envelope. Inside was an old notebook, its leather cover marked by time, and a brief note. "I found this among Hannah's things that I kept all these years. It's her diary from the last months of pregnancy. Andrew never knew of its existence. It was my last guarantee, my last power over him. Now it belongs to you." Emily sat in the office armchair, the diary weighing, in her hands like lead. Through the window she could see Natalie in the garden with Audrey, the star necklace shining on her neck as they planted new flowers. The first page of the diary was dated 6 months before Natalie's birth. "Dear Diary, the dreams are becoming more frequent, more vivid. Last night, I saw my daughter at 6 years old dancing in a garden full of flowers. She was wearing my star necklace and smiling. Oh, how she smiled. And there was this woman with her, the same from the other dreams. Her eyes are so gentle, so full of love. I haven't told Andrew about this part of the dreams. He's already worried enough about everything, about the future, about the complications the doctor mentioned in the last appointment. But I know deep in my heart that even if something happens to me, my little one will be fine. The woman from the dreams. Today I finally saw her name. It was written on a paper on a table. Emily. What a peculiar name. I tried to search the internet, see if I could find someone like that, but maybe she doesn't even exist in my life yet. Maybe she's just a promise of the future." Emily stopped reading, tears blurring her vision. How was it possible? How could Hannah have dreamed of her name years before they met? She continued flipping through the diary, each page revealing more surprising details. Hannah had described with frightening precision not only Emily, but also the house where they now lived, the garden she was planting, even the way Natalie wrinkled her nose when concentrating, exactly as Hannah herself did. A joyful shout from the garden caught her attention. Natalie had found a new sprout emerging from the earth. "Mommy," she called excitedly, "come see, the seeds we planted are growing." Emily joined them in the garden, the diary still in her hands. Audrey noticed the volume and frowned. "Is that another diary of hers?" she asked softly. "Yes," Emily replied. "Sophia kept it all these years. She passed away." Audrey made the sign of the cross. May God have her, and may she finally find peace. Natalie, who was kneeling tending to the plants, raised her dirt-smudged face. "Did Aunt Sophia go to heaven to meet Daddy and Mommy Hannah?" Emily felt her heart tighten. How to explain to a child the complexities of adults, the power games, the lies, the late regrets? "Yes, my love." She opted for the simplest answer. She went to rest. "So now they can talk and make peace?" Natalie asked with the innocence typical of her age. Audrey smiled gently. "You know, dear, your mother always said that in the end, love is stronger than any hurt." Natalie seemed satisfied with the answer and returned her attention to the plants. The afternoon sun created a golden halo in her dark hair, so similar to Hannah's. Emily opened the diary again, finding one of the last entries. "My little one is almost here. The doctor says there are risks, that I need to prepare for all possibilities. But how can I be afraid when my dreams show me such a beautiful future for her? Today I dreamed of a specific moment, a garden full of flowers, my daughter at 6 years old planting seeds with 2 women who love her, Emily and Mom. Yes, I finally saw my mother in the dreams, reunited with my daughter. They were planting flowers together, and my little one was wearing my star necklace. So, even if I'm not there physically, I know my love will find a way through time. Through Emily, through Mom, through each flower that blooms in that garden that doesn't exist yet, but that lives so clearly in my dreams. Emily looked up from the diary, observing the scene before her. There they were, exactly as Hannah had dreamed, planting flowers in a sunny garden. The prophecy of a mother who, even knowing she wouldn't be physically present, had ensured that her daughter would be surrounded by love. "Look, Mommy," Natalie called again. "The daisies that Grandma said were Mommy Hannah's favorites are blooming." First, Audrey hugged her granddaughter, her wrinkled hands caressing the dark hair so similar to the daughter she had lost. "That's because she's here," she said softly. "In your smile, in your ways, in every flower we plant." The star necklace sparkled on Natalie's neck, catching the last rays of the afternoon sun. It was as if the universe itself conspired to fulfill every detail of Hannah's dreams. Emily put away the diary and joined them in the flower bed. Some stories, she thought, are so extraordinary that they can only be written by destiny. And some families are formed not by blood, but by dreams that transcend time. Winter arrived, gently, covering the garden with a soft mist in the mornings. Inside the house, the aroma of hot chocolate and freshly baked cookies created a cozy atmosphere. Emily was organizing some old boxes in the attic when she found something interesting, a photo album she hadn't seen in years. It was from her own childhood, a time she rarely revisited. Sitting on the dusty attic floor, she began flipping through the yellowed pages. Her heart almost stopped when she came to a specific photo, herself at 6 years old, wearing a necklace with a star pendant. "It can't be," she whispered to herself. She ran down the stairs, the album pressed against her chest. She found Audrey in the kitchen, preparing lunch. "Audrey," she called, her voice trembling slightly. "I need to show you something." The lady wiped her hands on her apron and approached. Emily opened the album to the photo she had found. "This necklace," she pointed to the image, "it's identical to Hannah's." Audrey took the album, her eyes widening in recognition. "But how?" "It was my grandmother's," Emily explained. "She gave it to me when I was little, but I lost it during a move. I never saw one like it again, until now." "Hannah got hers from a lady at an antique fair," Audrey said slowly. "She was 4 months pregnant at the time, said that when she saw the necklace, she felt she needed to have it." The 2 women looked at each other. The magnitude of that coincidence. Was it really just coincidence, weighing in the air between them? "Her dream started right after," Audrey continued. "That's when she began to see you, to know you existed somewhere." The sound of the front door opening interrupted the conversation. Natalie came running in, returning from school. "Mommy!" she exclaimed, throwing her backpack on the sofa. "Today the teacher asked us to draw our family." She took a folded paper from her backpack and handed it to Emily. The drawing showed several people in a garden, Emily, Audrey, and 2 figures in the sky, surrounded by stars, Andrew and Hannah. "It's beautiful, my love," Emily smiled, noticing how her daughter had drawn the star necklace shining both on her own neck and on the figure of Hannah in the sky. "The teacher said some families are different," Natalie continued, taking a cookie from the tray on the table. "That what matters is love." "Your teacher is very wise," Audrey commented, serving hot chocolate for her granddaughter. That night, after Natalie fell asleep, Emily returned to the attic. There was something else she needed to find. After hours of searching, she found an old box with her grandmother's belongings. At the bottom, wrapped in a faded silk handkerchief, was a yellowed envelope. Inside was a letter dated 40 years ago. "Dear granddaughter, when you read this letter, I probably won't be here anymore, but I need to tell you about the star necklace I gave you. It has a special history. They say it was made by an artisan who dreamed of the future. He made only 2 identical necklaces, swearing that one day They would reunite souls that needed to meet. I don't know if you'll still have the necklace when you grow up. I don't know if you'll believe this story, but something tells me that this small piece of silver has a greater destiny than simply adorning your neck. Keep this letter, dear, and if one day you find the other necklace, know that it wasn't by chance. With love, Grandma Mary Emily let the letter fall into her lap, her mind spinning with the implications. The necklace her grandmother had given her as a child was the twin of Hannah's necklace. Somehow, through time and space, the two necklaces had connected their lives, long before they met. A gentle breeze entered through the attic window, bringing with it the scent of flowers from the garden. Downstairs, the star necklace rested on Natalie's neck as she slept, its soft glow like a fulfilled promise. Emily took her cell phone and photographed her grandmother's letter. She needed to show it to Audrey. They needed to put together all the pieces of this extraordinary puzzle that destiny had assembled, but that could wait until tomorrow. For now, she just wanted to absorb the magnitude of everything. Hannah's dreams, the twin necklaces, the coincidences that weren't coincidences. Some stories, she thought again, are too big to be explained by logic. Some stories can only be understood by the heart. Spring brought with it not only new flowers to the garden, but also an unexpected discovery. Clara, who maintained regular contact with the family, appeared on a Saturday morning carrying an old box. "I found this during a cleanup at the hospital," she explained, placing the box on the kitchen table. It was in a dead file mixed with old medical records. It was a simple cardboard box with the name Hannah Martinez handwritten on the lid. Inside were personal belongings that had remained at the hospital after her death, items that no one had claimed at the time. "How did this stay lost for so long?" Audrey asked, her hands trembling as she touched the objects. "The hospital went through several renovations," Clara explained. "This box was in a storage room that was only reopened now." Emily watched as Audrey carefully removed each item with reverential care: a stopped wristwatch, a small hand mirror, a notebook. At the bottom of the box, they found something that made both hold their breath: a sealed envelope with Natalie's name. "It's her handwriting," Audrey confirmed, touching the yellowed paper. "But the date, it's from the day when from the day she died," Emily completed softly. Natalie was at school at that moment, which gave the three women time to decide how to proceed. "She's only 6 years old," Emily pondered. "Maybe it's too early." Hannah would know the right moment, Audrey said with conviction. She always knew. As if answering their doubt, they found a small note inside the notebook. "Give to my daughter when she is ready to understand about dreams and stars." "The necklaces," Clara commented, noticing the star pendant that now rested on Emily's neck, an exact replica she had commissioned. "You never told us how you discovered they were twins." Emily instinctively touched the pendant. Since finding her grandmother's letter, she had commissioned a copy of Hannah's necklace. Now mother and daughter wore identical pendants as a visible symbol of their connection. "It's an incredible story," she began, but was interrupted by the sound of the door opening. Natalie came running in, as she always did, returning from school. She stopped abruptly upon seeing the three women gathered around the box. "What's that?" she asked, curious. The women exchanged looks. It was Audrey who finally spoke. "These are some things that belong to your mother, dear, and there's something here especially for you." Natalie's eyes widened. "For me?" "Yes." Emily knelt to be at her daughter's height. "But before I show you, I need to know, have you been dreaming of anything different lately?" The question caught everyone by surprise, except Natalie, who nodded as if it were the most natural thing in the world. "I dreamed of Mommy Hannah yesterday," she said simply. "She was wearing a necklace like mine and said she had left a letter for me." Audrey let out a small sob. Clara brought her hands to her mouth. Emily felt a shiver run down her spine. "And what else did she say in the dream?" she asked softly. "She said that when I found the letter, I should read it with you and Grandma Audrey, and that we shouldn't cry because she's always with us, in the stars." Emily took the envelope with trembling hands. "Then I think now is the right moment." The four settled in the living room. Clara made hot chocolate for everyone, following the special recipe that Hannah had taught Audrey so many years ago. The envelope contained 2 sheets of paper, a letter and a drawing. The drawing showed 3 women in a garden, a young, dark-haired woman wearing a star necklace, an elderly, grey-haired lady, and between them a small girl also with a shining necklace. "It's us," Natalie exclaimed. "But how did she know?" "Your mother had a special gift," Audrey explained gently. "She could see pieces of the future in her dreams." "Like me?" Natalie asked, surprising everyone again. You also dream of the future?" Emily asked, her heart racing. "Sometimes," the girl shrugged as if it was something perfectly normal. "Last week I dreamed we would find things from Mommy Hannah and that there was a letter for me." Clara served more hot chocolate, her hands trembling slightly as she held the cup. The afternoon sun came through the living room windows, creating golden patterns on the floor. "Do you want me to read the letter for you?" Emily offered. Natalie picked up the paper with reverential care. "No, I want to read it by myself first. Is that okay?" The 3 women watched in silence as the girl read, her eyes, the same as Hannah's, scanning the lines with surprising maturity for her age. The silence in the room was almost palpable as Natalie read her mother's letter. Small tears ran down her face, but she continued reading, determined to absorb every word. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity, she raised her eyes from the paper. "Mommy wants me to read it aloud to you," she said softly. Emily, Audrey, and Clara moved closer, forming an intimate circle on the sofa. Natalie cleared her throat and began to read. "My dear daughter, when you read this letter, you will be old enough to understand about dreams and stars. I know it seems strange that I'm writing to you now, hours before you were born, but my heart tells me I need to leave these words. First, I want you to know that you were loved from the first moment, not just by me, but by destiny, which wove a safety net around you even before you came into the world. You must be wearing my star necklace now. It has a special history. It is the twin of another necklace which belonged to the grandmother of a very special woman named Emily. Yes, your second mother, the one I see in my dreams taking care of you with so much love. The necklaces were made to unite souls that needed to meet across time, and they fulfilled their mission. They brought you, me, Emily, and Grandma Audrey to this exact moment. In recent months, my dreams have shown so many things. I see you growing in a garden, full of flowers surrounded by love. I see Emily teaching you to plant daisies, my favorite flowers. I see Grandma Audrey telling stories about when I was little. But most importantly, I see you developing the same gift I have, the gift of dreaming of the future. Don't be afraid of this gift, my little one. It is a blessing, a way for the universe, to show us that some loves are so great they transcend time. I know it must have been difficult growing up without me physically present, but I want you to know that in every dream I had of you, in every moment I imagined your future. My love created invisible bridges that keep us connected. Emily is not a substitute. She is a gift that destiny specially prepared for you. The dreams showed me how she will love you, protect you, teach you about life. And now probably she is there by your side, holding your hand as you read this letter. To Emily, I want to say, thank you. Thank you for giving my daughter all the love I would give. Thank you for keeping my memory alive. Thank you for understanding that some stories are too big to be explained by logic. To Grandma Audrey, I know it was hard to lose me, but I see in my dreams how you will find a new joy being a grandmother to my little one, how you will teach her all the things you taught me, and how your heart will heal a little more with each of her smiles. And to Clara, who I know is also there, thank you for finding this box at exactly the right moment. It wasn't a coincidence. In my dreams, I saw you keeping these memories until the day my daughter was ready to receive them. Natalie, my love, now you understand why the star necklace is so special. It is not just a piece of jewelry. It is a symbol of how true love finds its ways, even through time and space. Take good care of it, wear it with pride, and when your own dreams begin to show the future, remember, you carry within you not only my gift but also my eternal love. And one last thing, deep in your heart you always knew, didn't you? You always knew that Emily was the person I had chosen in my dreams to be your second mother. You always knew that none of this was coincidence. Now go, my little one. Live your life surrounded by the love of these wonderful women that destiny brought together to take care of you. And when you look at the stars at night, remember that somewhere, sometime, we are always connected. With eternal love, Mommy Hannah. When Natalie finished reading, there wasn't a single dry eye in the room. Audrey sobbed silently. Clara wiped away tears with a handkerchief. And Emily felt her heart so full, it seemed about to burst. "There's one more thing," Natalie said, turning the paper. On the back was a postscript. P.S. The garden you planted is exactly as I saw in my dreams, especially the daisies. The four embraced, forming a perfect circle of love and protection. The afternoon sun, coming through the living room windows, made Emily and Natalie's star necklaces shine in perfect synchrony. Outside, in the garden, the daisies swayed gently with the breeze, as if dancing to a music only they could hear. A music about love, destiny, and the extraordinary power of dreams. A year passed since the discovery of the box at the hospital. The garden was more beautiful than ever, filled with flowers that Natalie and Audrey had planted together. The daisies, in particular, seemed to bloom with extraordinary vigor, as if they knew they were special. On a quiet Saturday afternoon, while Audrey and Clara prepared cookies in the kitchen, Emily found Natalie sitting on the garden swing, her gaze lost on the horizon. "A penny for your thoughts," Emily said softly, sitting next to her daughter. Natalie smiled, instinctively touching the star necklace. "I had another dream last night." Emily's heart slightly quickened. Natalie's dreams had become more frequent over the past year, each bringing small glimpses of the future. "Want to tell me about it?" "It was about a girl," Natalie began, her eyes gaining that distant glow that reminded so much of Hannah. "She was in a hospital alone, but she had a necklace. A star necklace." Emily felt a shiver run down her spine. "What do you mean?" "The dream, I knew we needed to find her, that she is like me, that she lost her mother but has no one." Audrey appeared at the back door, carrying a tray with freshly baked cookies and hot chocolate. Seeing the serious expression of the two, she put the tray on the garden table and approached. "What is it, dears?" Natalie told her dream again. When she finished, Audrey and Emily exchanged meaningful looks. "Grandma," Natalie called softly, "did Mommy Hannah used to have dreams like this?" "That is clear." "Yes, my love," Audrey replied, sitting on the other side of the swing, "especially when something important was about to happen." Clara joined them in the garden, bringing more cups for the hot chocolate. The sweet aroma mixed with the scent of the flowers, creating an almost magical atmosphere. "You know," Clara began hesitantly, "there's a girl like that at the hospital. She arrived a few weeks ago. Her parents died in an accident, and she has no other relatives." The silence that followed was broken only by the soft tinkling of the star necklaces when Emily and Natalie moved in sync. "What's her name?" Natalie asked, though her tone suggested she already knew the answer. "Estella," Clara replied. "Her parents were of Hispanic origin. The name means star," they all completed at the same time. Emily felt something stir inside her chest, that same sensation she had felt when she found her grandmother's letter about the twin necklaces. As if the universe was once again weaving its invisible threads. "She's 6 years old," Clara continued, "the same age you were when I found my second mother," Natalie completed, squeezing Emily's hand. Audrey wiped away a discreet tear. "Hannah always said nothing is by chance. We need to go see her," Natalie declared with surprising certainty for her 7 years. "Today." The hospital seemed different now, less frightening than in the memories of a year ago. The corridors that once guarded secrets and pain now seemed to guide them towards something new, something hopeful. Clara led them to the pediatric ward. Through the glass of one of the rooms, they saw a small girl sitting on her bed, drawing. Her bare neck seemed strangely empty, as if waiting for something. "It's her," Natalie whispered, touching the star necklace. the girl from my dream. Emily felt her heart tighten. The scene was so familiar, a child alone needing love, family. "What do you think?" she began, but Natalie was already taking off her necklace. "Mommy Hannah left instructions in her diary," the girl said with a wisdom beyond her years, "about how to make a copy of the necklace when we found another lost star." Audrey covered her mouth with her hands, tears streaming down her face. Clara smiled through her own tears. Then Emily took a deep breath. "I think our family is about to grow a little more." The afternoon sun came through the hospital room window, creating a pattern of light that seemed to dance around little Estella. Somewhere Hannah smiled, knowing that her dreams continued to come true one star at a time. The garden was especially beautiful that spring morning. The daisies that Hannah had loved so much bloomed in abundance, creating a white and golden carpet that stretched as far as the eye could see. Natalie and Estella played among the flowers, their star necklaces sparkling under the sun. 6 months had passed since the day at the hospital, and the transformation in Estella was remarkable. The shy and frightened girl had given way to a laughing child, her eyes now shining with the same light that illuminated her new sisters. Emily watched the girls from the porch, a forgotten cup of tea in her hands. Audrey joined her, bringing a tray of freshly baked cookies. "They are so alike," the lady commented softly, "the same way of tilting their heads when they're thinking, the same smile." "Like Hannah," Emily completed. "It's almost as if she had planned everything," Audrey smiled. "Maybe she did plan it. Her dreams were always more than simple visions of the future." Clara, who was now a constant presence on weekends, arrived bringing news from the hospital. "The adoption papers were finalized," she announced, sitting with them. "Officially, Estella is a Williams now." The 3 women watched the girls who were now picking flowers to make crowns. Natalie was teaching Estella exactly as Hannah had taught in her dreams, with patience, with love. "Mommy," Estella called, the word still new and precious on her lips. "Look what Nat taught me to make." Emily smiled, seeing the small daisy crown in her daughter's hands. "It's beautiful, my love, just like the ones your mother Hannah used to make." Estella already knew the whole story, about Hannah, about the dreams, about the star necklaces. Contrary to what they feared, she accepted everything with the pure simplicity of children. "So I have 3 mothers?" she had asked when Emily first told her about Hannah. "One in heaven who sent me to you through dreams, one who gave me life but couldn't stay, and you." "Yes, my love," Emily had replied, tears in her eyes. "You have 3 mothers, and each one loves you in a special way." Now, seeing the 2 girls playing in the garden, Emily realized how life had mysterious ways of healing old wounds. Estella had lost her parents but found a new family. Natalie had grown up without Hannah, but now had a sister with whom to share her special gift. "They dreamed together again last night," Audrey commented, as if reading Emily's thoughts. "I know," Emily smiled. "I heard them whispering about shooting stars and magical gardens." Clara leaned in, interested. Do they have the same gift that Hannah had?" "Yes," Audrey replied, "but in a different way. Hannah dreamed alone. They dreamed together, as if their gifts complemented each other." As if to confirm Audrey's words, Natalie and Estella ran to the porch, their faces illuminated with that special expression that appeared when they had something important to tell. "Mommy," Natalie began, "we dreamed of another necklace last night." Emily felt her heart skip a beat. "Another star necklace?" "Yes," Estella continued, bouncing with excitement. "There was a girl wearing it in a house far away from here." She was sad. "But in the dream we knew she would be our sister too." The 3 women looked at each other. Audrey picked up her teacup with trembling hands. "Did Hannah leave instructions about more necklaces?" Clara asked softly. "In the last diary," Emily replied, remembering the words written in that delicate handwriting. "She said there would be others, that each lost star would find its way to us when the time was right." "Like a constellation," Natalie said dreamily. "Mommy Hannah is gathering all the lost stars in one sky." Estella took her sister's hand. their necklaces shining in perfect synchrony. "And we're going to help her, right? To find all the stars?" "Yes, my love," Emily smiled, hugging her daughters. "We're going to help her find all the stars." The sun was beginning to set, painting the sky with shades of pink and gold. In the garden, the daisies swayed gently with the breeze, as if dancing to the sound of a music that only they could hear. Audrey stood up, going to fetch Hannah's most recent diary, the one containing instructions about future necklaces. Clara began taking notes, already thinking about how she could help find more children who needed a home. And Emily just watched her daughters return to the garden, their star necklaces leaving traces of light in the air like small, earthly comets. On her own neck, her copy of the necklace shone with a serene light. The circle that Hannah had begun continued to expand, bringing more love, more light, more stars to her special constellation. And sometimes she smiled, knowing that her dreams were just beginning to come true, because some stories have no end. They just transform into new beginnings. And love, when it's true, has the power to create entire constellations, uniting lost stars in an infinite sky of possibilities.